This is Mac OS Ken.
Appenings in the App Store, diving deep on an iPhone opinion piece, and catching bad guys by mail. It is Thursday, the 22nd of August, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Two big stories for Apple's App Store. First, the guy at the head of it is leaving the company. Not Phil Schiller, he's the guy ultimately at the head of it. No, the guy at the head of the App Store who answers to Phil Schiller, he's heading out month after next. According to a piece from Bloomberg, Matt Fisher, who has run the App Store business since 2010, is leaving the iPhone maker in October, according to people with knowledge of the matter who declined to be named discussing unannounced moves. The App Store group is being split into two teams, one overseeing Apple's own store and another responsible for alternative app distribution. The reason? Changes. Bloomberg says the whole App Store thing is being reorganized to respond to changes in global regulations, and Fisher acknowledges those changes. The piece quotes an email Fisher sent to his team yesterday, quoting that, "After 21 years at Apple, I've made the decision to step away from our incredible company. This has been on my mind for some time, and as we are also reorganizing the team to better manage new challenges and opportunities, now is the right moment to pass the baton to two outstanding leaders on my team." As for who they are, Bloomberg says Carson Oliver, a longtime senior director, will run the App Store group, while Ann Tai, a director in charge of App Store features like search and discovery, will run the new team responsible for alternative distribution. They will both answer to Phil "The Thrill" Schiller. Apple declined to comment for the Bloomberg report. As word hits of Fisher hitting the exit, the UK has hit stop on an App Store investigation. Apple Insider says following the recent change in UK government, the country's competition regulator has closed its 3-year investigation into the App Store without reaching a conclusion. Good news for Apple? Well, hang on a sec. Stressing that closing the investigation says nothing about whether Apple violated the law, the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, or CMA, has left open the possibility of reopening the investigation down the line. The CMA also pointed out that it's got more power now than it had when the investigation began, thanks to the country's new Digital Markets, Competition and Consumers Act 2024. Maybe they'll leave it alone. Maybe they'll start it again. Time will tell. There was an opinion piece this week in the South China Morning Post that kind of got the gears in my head turning. The headline was, "Why Apple's iPhone is Losing Its Shine in China," with the subheader, "Beyond geopolitics, the iPhone increasingly looks pricey and dull next to Chinese smartphones, and the iPhone 16 may not turn the tide." The opinion piece was written by George Chen, managing director and co-chair of digital practice at the Asia Group. South China Morning Post identifies that group as a business and policy consulting firm. Digging on them a tiny bit, Wikipedia identifies the Asia Group as an American strategic advisory firm based in Washington, D.C., co-founded in 2013. Based in D.C., though with offices in New Delhi, Hanoi, Shanghai, Tokyo, Taipei, and maybe an office in Hong Kong. While Hong Kong is listed among the firm's locations, the rest have addresses, while the Hong Kong heading does not. The Asia Group's website is full of marketing speak, with phrases like, "Enabling your success in Asia. We lead at the intersection of public policy and corporate strategy," and "In a world where geopolitics and public policy shape commercial outcomes, We advance corporate strategies informed by cutting-edge analysis to enable business success. So wouldn't you think the managing director and co-chair of a digital practice at a firm like that would have more pressing business than penning a fear, uncertainty, and doubt piece on iPhone? Unless, that's part of his gig. Let us address his thesis. Why Apple's iPhone is losing its shine in China. There's the usual geopolitical stuff, the talk of unofficial bans of iPhone in various government organizations. Additionally, Chen says Beijing has stepped up its propaganda in recent years to endorse domestic brands. There's also an increase in high-end features for those domestic brands, without the high price tag associated with the iPhone. According to Chen, industry analysts have expressed concerns about the iPhone's lack of innovation in recent years, especially as the price of an entry-level iPhone now rivals that of some laptops. Chinese-branded phones typically sell for 1/3 to half the price of an iPhone, putting Apple in a tough position amid languishing consumer sentiment. Chen goes on to say Chinese consumers are becoming more discerning and pragmatic. They no longer view foreign tech brands such as Apple as inherently high-end. Meanwhile, Chinese brands have made significant strides in quality and innovation over the past decade. Now, if you're wondering what might turn all of this around in China, it's Apple Intelligence. Except, no it won't. Not anytime soon anyway. And Chen has to know that, but seems to pretend he doesn't. One of the issues Chen says he sees for Apple is a lack of localization in China. There's also the lack of AI. The introduction of Apple Intelligence in the soon-to-be-released iPhone 16 presents a fresh opportunity for Apple to regain the favor of Chinese consumers, according to the managing director. But here are two things we know. Not all of Apple Intelligence will be ready when iPhone 16 launches, and none of it will be localized for China. Not only does Apple not yet have a deal with an LLM there, something to do the heavy lifting ChatGPT is expected to do here, Apple itself says that Apple Intelligence will be available in beta as part of iOS 18, iPadOS 18, and macOS Sequoia this fall in US English. Some features, software platforms, and additional languages will come over the course of the next year. Back to Chen, who says the introduction of Apple Intelligence presents a fresh opportunity for Apple to regain the favor of Chinese consumers. But it could also pose a new risk for Apple. If the company fails to show that its AI can perform effectively in China, a market known for its strict internet regulations, Apple may face a further loss of smartphone market share in China. So the thing Chen says might help Apple this fall is a thing Chen has to know Apple is not doing this fall. But he's presenting it as if it is a thing that Apple's going to try to do. If the public then perceives it as failing at that, well, there's Chen's thesis supported. This leaves me with two questions and some possible answers. Why would Chen write this, and why would South China Morning Post run it? On the first one, while the Asia Group is said to be an American strategic advisory firm, who knows who they're advising? Could be Chinese phone makers, could be South Korean phone makers, heck, could be Google. Any number of companies could benefit from perceived weakness for Apple and iPhone. As for why South China Morning Post would run it, it probably wouldn't upset China. Turning again to Wikipedia, the Hong Kong-based paper used to be seen as an independent voice, back when Hong Kong was independent of China. Since 2016, it's been owned by Alibaba Group, one of the biggest businesses going in China. According to the post on the paper on Wikipedia, since the change of ownership in 2016, concerns have been raised about the paper's editorial independence and self-censorship. Critics, including the New York Times, Der Spiegel, and The Atlantic, have alleged that the paper is on a mission to promote China's soft power abroad. Honestly, I don't think I would have given the article a second thought if Mr. Chen hadn't set up the release of iPhone 16 in China for a practically inevitable takedown. Still, here we are. And here it comes. News of something you do not want to do with your iPhone or iPad. Unless you're looking to crash the thing, a piece from TechCrunch says you should not type quote, quote, colon, colon on Apple's smartphone or tablet. Talking about the punctuation marks, quote, quote, colon, colon. The piece says that combo of characters will crash Springboard, which is the name for the mobile user interface on iPhone and iPad. The piece says TechCrunch verified that those characters do crash Springboard when typed into the search bar in the Settings app, as well as if you swipe all the way to the right on your home screen and tap them into the app library search bar. Follow-up say just quote, quote, colon, and anything else will actually crash the Springboard. Doesn't sound catastrophic. Triggering the bug briefly crashes Springboard, then reloads your lock screen, according to the report. In other tests, TechCrunch says the bug flashed the screen black for a second. Security researchers with whom TechCrunch spoke say it's not a security bug, it's just a bug. To be clear, just viewing those characters in that order doesn't do anything. They actually have to be entered by the user to prompt a crash. Yes, I am tempted to try it. No, I haven't done it. I'm probably not going to. Probably. And finally today, I understand how this story ends, but I don't understand how it started. A piece from the New York Post. I know. But a piece from the New York Post has word of a woman who thwarted mail thieves in a pretty clever way. A California woman who was sick of repeatedly losing her mail to thieves, according to the Post, sent herself an AirTag. According to the report, the unidentified woman kept a mailbox at the Los Alamos post office in Santa Maria Valley and had been the victim of mail theft on several occasions, according to the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. So yeah, she packed up an AirTag, watched through Find My as it left her mailbox, called the Popo, and Bob's your uncle. Officers nabbed 2 suspects with the victim's mail, including the parcel with the AirTag. They also had items believed to be stolen from more than a dozen additional victims, according to the report. Officers applauded the woman for her ingenuity and for exercising appropriate caution by contacting law enforcement to safely and successfully apprehend the suspects. A successful and sensible end to the story. The part that I don't get? They were apparently stealing mail from post office boxes. The unidentified woman kept the mailbox at the Los Alamos post office, according to the report. I understand how this story ends, but I don't understand how it started. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.